Barakat Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is There's a Lot of Zombies in Israel. And pretty much it was a title that the elder Apostle Tar, mentioned in his lesson, for a lesson for me. And I really didn't have anything, for a lesson this morning. So I'm going to build off of that title that the apostle, gave to me. And Lord's will, it'll be an edifying lesson. And it's true, you do have a lot of zombies out there in Israel because, they'll blindly follow whatever, anyone says, as long as it sounds good, as long as the package is nice, And you have some that will even, the individual with a haircut like this, they'll let them come into the camp. An individual with a bald head, they'll let them come into the camp, so on and so forth. You come as you are, pretty much. And for the most part, when you first wake up to the truth, of course, it's going to be a transition period that you have to go through. You're not going to wake up one day and then all of a sudden, poof, instant Israelite appears, It's a work in progress. It takes time. There's certain things. The scriptures say, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. So that's a time-consuming process. It takes time. This in these times that we're in now, everything is moving a lot faster. But in times past, things will move slower, and the person would get grounded, rooted, and settled. Or not. It all depends on the spirit of that particular individual and if they were part of the elect or not. Because what it is with a lot of these groups, I can't say all of them because I don't, but I'll say for the majority of these groups, the whole thing is the more members, the better. Because for them, more members equals more money. And that's why the scriptures call them hirelings. They teach for hire, and so on and so forth. So a couple of precepts came to mind while I was meditating on this on this title, and I got a couple of them that I pulled up some tabs on, and Lord's will, we'll go through them, and Lord's will, it'll be an edifying lesson. So the first precept that I had was in the book of Matthew 15, which is pretty much, the one of the main scriptures that are used, to show you that you're going to have individuals out there that are blind. Now, sometimes, a man of the Lord can say something and it's action and it's true, and the person that's on the receiving end may not fully understand it, but then they go back and they search the scriptures, they pray to the Lord, search the scriptures, and the Lord reveals it to them. But they know that based off of what the man said, based off of the man's track record. We know your track record, okay? Inside joke. They say, well, he's a man of the Lord, so I have to consider what he's saying, and go back and do the research, and then you find out, yep, he was correct. Like the church of Berea. They didn't just take anything that the Apostle Paul said and ran with it. They actually went and researched it themselves until they were fully persuaded in their mind that what he said was true. Not that they doubted it, but they had to go and research it themselves. That way, their foundation is sure. But with a lot of these individuals coming into Israel now, it's all about, getting a job, getting married, becoming a part of something. The people that look like you, they got something going on, so it's got to be good. The herd mentality type thing. Like you could be parked in a parking lot way out in the jungle somewhere, and people, there's no one around you, and a person will come and park right next to your car. When they have all this open space, they'll park right next to you, because though the majority of people on the planet are herd mentality people. You could be in a parking lot. People are parked on one side of it. Then you go to a side where nobody's there. You go park in the most remotest area, where you got to walk to the store. And somebody somehow, some way, instead of finding another parking somewhere else, if they don't want to park in a crowded area, they'll park right next to you. You know, the lot right next to yours. Because most people have a herd mentality. So let's read this, Matthew 15:13, and that fucking burns me. You know, that's why I had to get it off my chest. You know, but that is the mentality. People, the majority of people have a herd mentality. Matter of fact, Lord's will, we'll get that terminology, herd mentality. And then, matter of fact, let's read it. Herd mentality. The tendency for people's behavior or belief to conform to those of the group to which they belong. Right. So they have to conform, and that's why Yahushua said this to the apostles, because the disciples, as they were called at this time, they told them about the Pharisees, you know, and how they were offended at what he said, you know. And then Yahushua said, but he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father have not planted shall be rooted up. Right. Because it's not about what the plant looks like. It's about if the plant has been planted correctly with the right seed, watered correctly, nurtured correctly, you know. So every plant which you see springing up out there is not a plant of the Most High Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, because you have false prophets out there. Let me just get this one real quick and we'll come back to this. Psalms 127:1. It says, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that built it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh, but in vain. Right. Because if the Lord built it, the Lord will protect it. The Lord will hedge it. You know, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua will hedge it. But if it has not been planted by the Lord, watered by the Lord, you know, blessed by the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, it will be rooted up. It says, let them alone. In other words, leave those individuals alone. Like the leaders of the Pharisees and Sadducees, the people that they're leading. Because at the end of the day, the Lord is looking for his elect. All we're doing is teaching the word. You know, I know sometimes brothers say, yeah, well, all we're doing is looking for the elect. We ain't looking for nobody. We're just teaching the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. The Lord is doing the searching. Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, the angels, they're the ones going out there, you know, making the word go into the elect. We ain't doing nothing but teaching the word that the Lord gave to us. You know, I know brothers sometimes fancy themselves, well, you know, I'm looking for or we're looking for the. No, the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, is looking for the elect. Just like when you go back to the Garden of Eden, when the Lord was, you know, when Adam heard the voice of the Lord in the cool of the day, those were the prophets. That's the same thing, you know, generation after generation, year after year, decade after decade, century after century, millennium after millennium. The prophets will go out, because they will be inspired by the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua to teach the word, and those that believed that were gathered by the Lord and protected. The rest were destroyed. All right, so it says, let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. Right. So you have leaders that are blind, and they're going to lead the ones that are blind. Matter of fact, let's look up this word blind. Blind. The word there is tiflos or tuflos. It says blind, mentally blind. And this is exactly what it is. It's not, it could be used physically, but it's dealing with someone that's mentally blind. Right here, opaque, as if smoky. In other words, you could barely see the road in front of you. You know, so if that's the case, if there's anything within a certain distance and you can't see it properly, chances are you're going to fall into it. So that's what these leaders of Israel are like. They're blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. In other words, they're going to both fall into destruction, because there's the ditch that's coming now is that hour of temptation, which is the sea-hip, which the majority of these leaders are not teaching. They're teaching is something else. So what they're doing is they're leading the people astray. They're like the Pied Piper, leading the rats, you know, to that sinking ship. And meanwhile, the real trumpeters, the real charmers out there letting them know, but the ones that are destined to be destroyed are following the false prophets. They're following the false voice. They're not listening to the voice of reason of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai reasoning with them. You know? Because we've been painted in a negative light. We've been called the R word. You know? We've been called all kind of stuff. We've been called the bum camp. You know, they present themselves as super organized, fancy garments. So it's a gimmick. You know? So Buthonos, or Bathunos, a pit, a ditch, a hole in the ground, especially a cistern ditch, right? Because these devils, these E's, are laying traps and using individuals out there to lay these traps. You know? And more times than less, when you have a guy that's out in the forefront all the time, you know, in venues that others cannot partake in, that are teaching some of the same things, is because they're juiced in. I'm just gonna say it like it is. You know? Let's go to Psalms chapter 10, and let's start at 6. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. That's dealing with Esau. They never think they're going down. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. So everything that they say, know for a fact that they're lying. But he seems so sincere. Yeah, but he's lying. Well, how do you know? Never trust thine enemy. He speaks smooth words, but in his heart was war. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. See? It says, he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. And how is he doing that? By the legislation that he's setting up, and these celebrities, you know, and people they put out in the forefront to push the agenda of the so-called elite, banking elite. And then they also have in the pocket those leaders among Israel that have sold out. That's a damn shame, but it is necessary, because this is all a part of the Most High's movie. And if it's a part of the movie, then there have to be actors in the movie to play all of the roles that the Most High set up. Because the Most High is not going to edit his movie. It says, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth them into his net. Right, and then the net is what? The different legislation and the different things that we see going on in the infrastructure of the world to deceive, especially the Israelites. And they're not, and these leaders are not warning them of the most major and most important prophecy out there, which is the prophecy of the MOTB in Revelation, the 13th chapter, which is the sea hip. You know, I just finished watching, you know, I've been off and on watching the two series, Utopia and Dystopia. You know, they're fucking cheesy. You know, sometimes some parts are hard to get through, you know, but it's the points that they bring out dealing with the sea hip, you know, dealing with infertility and all of that stuff, you know. This is what these devils are up to, but they put it in a way, then they, you know, they wrap it in the love story and some BS and stuff like that. Just, you know, so some people just can't stomach it, you know. It's just like you have a lot of truths in those tabloids that I don't know if they even make those anymore. The Sun, I believe, is one of them, and just different ones. They will bring out different points and different information that was true, but then they put so much garbage around it that people say, man, this is a joke. Here's where you get your Alex Jones and your David Ikes and your different other so-called conspiracy theories, as they call them. They bring out a lot of good information, but then they go off with some off-the-wall bullshit, that will make the person that's serious dismiss it because of that 5 or 10% of nonsense that they're teaching. Salakia. So that's pretty much it. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. What are his strong ones? These are those different troops of whatever, FEMA, whatever different troops they have out there, prepared for the hour of martial law, the hour when, society collapses and they get everything in place. Now they talk about they're doing an event 202, which they did a 201 back, I think that was 2019. They're doing one now, scenario for 2025. All kind of stuff going on with the V, with the V, the one with the iris. Put those two together, and they're just pushing this agenda forward. It said, "He hath said in his heart, the Most High hath forgotten. He hideth his face; he will never see it." Right. So they're they're working. They're doing their thing. They're bringing forth their agenda. And you have Israelite leaders out there that are even a part of this whole mechanism. And you have the majority of Jake that's just blindly following them and going right into the ditch of destruction. The ditch of destruction. So Isaiah 9:13 says, "For the people turneth not unto him that sinneth, that smiteth them. Neither do they seek the Lord Yahweh Bashem El-Shai of hosts." Right, so Jake is not turning to the Father. This is why the Lord said that the elect are not going to stay upon those that smote us anymore, but they're going to stay upon the Lord Yahweh Bashem El-Shai in truth, because they're not accepting or listening to the truth. They're not turning to the Heavenly Father, who's the one putting the afflictions and the hells upon Jake. They're turning to the man that is responsible for bringing this hellish state upon us, But they won't turn to the Lord. And when we tell them who the Lord is, they won't accept it. Why? Because they are not part of the elect. Now the elect, they're going to consider, they're going to listen, they're going to research. And once the word enters into their brain, into their mind, into their spirit, that's it. The Lord sealed them. It says, "Therefore the Lord will cut off from Israel head and tail, branch and rush in one day." Because the time of Jacob's trouble is coming. The ancient and honorable, he is the head. Right, so you're going to have old fools out there that are had in honor among the congregation, leaders and all of that. That's the head. And the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail. And they're both going to perish, because these are the people that Esau is using, these sambos that Esau is using to deceive Jake. Because somehow, some way, they've gained the trust of Jake by certain fiery speeches that they may give. Some of them are very charismatic, like your Farrakhan's, They have a way with words. They have a way of making it seem like they're against or opposed to the establishment, but meanwhile, in the background, they're making deals with the establishment, with the man. They, yea, and they. And I knew that dude was juiced in. Yay, talking about he coming against, fuck out of here. And then that other cat, Kyrie Irving, that's Satan. That is Satan. So it says, "The ancient and honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail. For the leaders of this people cause them to" what? Err. The word err is spelled E-R-R, which is a shortened way of saying error. So the leaders of this people cause them to commit errors. And that's why they're not able to choose the right path, because they're not giving them the whole picture. You know, here it is. They got the whole picture, but because they took that bag, they're leaving a major portion of, in a major part, should I say, of that message out. Which, if you have a combination lock and you have every possible number for the combination, but there's one number left out, guess what? You ain't getting in that safe. You're not getting in that safe unless you have that one number. And this is what they're doing. They're pulling out one of the most important prophecies that's very detrimental to those that take it, by putting him at ease. And these people are so gullible and so zombified that they, whatever if they say it, then that puts them at ease. This is why the scriptures say that their fear towards me is taught by the precept of men. Because they say it, oh, it's cool. You know, now I can rest at ease. That's why the scriptures say, cursed be the man that trusteth in man and maketh arm his flesh. You see? So it says, for the leader, matter of fact, let's look up this word leaders. Look up two words here, leaders. The word there is asherah, to go straight, walk, go on, advance, make progress. Right, so you have a leader that walks, goes forward, advances. And what happened? The rest follow. Those of you brothers that have been in the military, you have the point. The dude that's at point. And what is he doing? He's leading the rest of the troop, or the platoon or squad or whatever, through that path, and everyone is following his steps. You see? And that's what these leaders are doing. Let's see if there's anything else. To be led on. So that's the leaders of this people. What caused them to err? Let's look up the word err so you could see. Cause them to err. The word is tha'ai, or tha'ayaha, to err, wonder, right? When you wonder, what are you doing? You moving outside of the boundaries or the perimeters of protection. You're moving into the red zone. So it says to err, wonder, go astray, stagger, right? Of intoxication, because it's not physical intoxication of actual wine and liquor, but it's comparable to it, because these philosophies make you err and stumble in judgment, just like if you drink too much liquor, it does the same thing. You see? So that's what these leaders are doing. They're feeding them with that botched liquor, you know, that gut rot, and it's leading them astray. But because they're in that giddy state, you know, you start drinking and you feel nice, you know, they're just being led, and they're oblivious to what's going on. That's why they're in that zombified state. There's a lot of zombies in Israel. All right, so let's go back. It says, for the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. Yeah, because they're going down the wrong way, and guess what? When they get to the end of that road, they're going to be destroyed, because a lot of them are going to take the sea hip, because their leaders told them not to, just like a lot of them trusted in their leaders and took that, you know, that the juice works. And what happened? A lot of them got really sick. A lot of them died. You know? Instead of going to the Lord and praying to the Lord and knowing that this man is the devil and not to take it, they went to man for what's the word I'm looking for? They went to man for, there's a word for it. I believe it starts with a C. For confirmation. They went to man for confirmation. And what happened? A lot of them got chin checked. Let's see. Okay, that's it on that. Let's move on to the next one. Isaiah 42:14. It says here, the blindness of the people. That's dealing with who? The Israelites. I have long time holding my peace. I have been still and refrained myself, Now will I cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. Right. And this is why the Lord is warning of the things that are coming. He said, what? Give them, hear the word in my mouth and give them warning from me. Because the Lord is about to do some things out here. Some serious, major things. Why do you think the Spirit came upon Yahushua and told him, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies? He gave them signs, warnings, things to look out for, so that they can be prepared for when that time, came down. And the ones that listened and prepared and were part of the elect, they listened, they took heed, they made moves, and guess what? They were good. But the rest that didn't listen, they got caught up in that siege. And that was a terrible siege. And they got destroyed. It's the same thing now. But this time it's a world siege. It's not just a siege, of, a country or a state or cities. It's the whole world. Salakia. So it says, I will make waste mountains and hills and dry up all their herbs. And I will make the rivers islands, and I will dry up the pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. Yeah, so the Lord said he's going to bring the blind by a way that they knew not. Because all of these other false philosophies, the Lord is going to dry that up. So the truth is going to come out. This is what Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, is all about. The reviving of those bones. Bringing them back together to who they are, what their purpose is, who their power in heaven is, what his name is, Yahweh, and his son's name, Yahushai. What the future holds, what to look out for, what to avoid. Identify the things to avoid that are displeasing to the Lord so that the Lord won't be mad at us. But you have those leaders that love money, that love that life that they're living and are not willing to give it up. They're not taking the same mindset that Moses did. Moses had great riches. He had a great position. But he said he chose to suffer with his people than to live with the wages of sin, in so many words, for a period of time, because he knew that was only temporary. But the other thing that was coming was going to be eternal. And he believed in that. Why? Because it was embedded in his spirit to believe it. Because he was the first leader among Israel to lead Israel to the promised land. He didn't go in. He was actually the first king of Israel. He didn't actually go into the land, but he was able to see it. But he knew the Lord, I'm sure, because Moses was a very wise man, I'm sure the Lord revealed to him that in process of time he would eventually come back into it. But at that time he wasn't going into it, because remember, when the Lord took Moses into the mount, he showed him many things. And a lot of that stuff was not written down in the first 5 books. There was a lot that was revealed to him. Even the end was revealed to him, which really, there's certain things in the law that speak about the end, but not to the extent. I'm pretty sure that the Lord showed him exact stuff, that he told him not to write down. So it says, and I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them. Right. So that's the path that we didn't know was what? The truth. The path of the truth that was hidden for a long period of time. Let's go real quick to 2nd Ezra, chapter 6 and verse 28, just straight to the point. It says, as for faith, it shall flourish, and corruption shall be overcome. How is corruption going to overcome and faith flourish? By the truth. And the truth, which hath been so long without fruit, shall be declared. It's going to be made open. All right. So going back, so it says, I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them, and not forsake them. Right. Because the Lord is going to open the path, the way. He's going to have the proper leadership to do this. Let's go to, what is that? 2nd Ezra 1. Right. And 39, unto whom I will give for leaders Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Hosea, Amos, and Micaiah, Joel, Abdias, and Jonas, Nahum, and Habakkuk, Sophonias, Haggai, Zechariah, or Zachary, which is Zechariah, and Malachi, which is called also an angel of the Lord. Right. Those were and these same men are back. Some of them in the spirit world, some of them are actually here, guiding. And then you also have other prophets of the Lord that are also set up as leaders, true prophets, to guide the people. You know? So going back, it says, verse 17, Isaiah 42:17, they shall be turned back, they shall be greatly ashamed, right? Because to turn back is what? To repent. What is the purpose of repentance? Back to penance, back to feeling bad, back to conversion, back to mending or amending the ways, the faults that we have. And true repentance brings forth sorrow. Back, penance, feeling sorry, back to feeling sorry. So they shall be turned back, they shall be greatly ashamed, right? Because of our past iniquities and our past sins that were shameful. It says that trust in graven images, and even today, Jake, the trust in graven images is dealing with these different churches, these different religions, different philosophies. You know, the some that were heavy into government or into music or into the entertainment world, whether it was plays, poetry, whatever the case, whatever they was into, that they gave their whole heart, mind, and soul over to. Once the Lord opens up their mind to the truth, they're going to be, everyone is ashamed of their past. It says that say to the molten image, ye are our gods, because this is pretty much what Jake is doing out there. When they're following that direction, they're looking at these religions and, you know, the political world, the entertainment world, as the salvation that they need in order to be able to function, in order to be able to fit in. You know, because the world tells you if you don't fit in with the world, then, you know, then there's something wrong with you. You're a weirdo and this, that, and the other. But that's the total opposite. It's a blessing not to fit into this world. It says, hear ye deaf and look ye blind, that you may see, right? So the Lord is speaking. So those that can see and those that can hear, that you may see, that they'll be able to see, right? Who is blind but my servant? Because Jake is in the position of being in that zombified state because they're not led correctly, right? It says, or deaf as my messenger that I sent. Who is blind as he that is perfect, which are what? The Israelites. And blind as the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai's servants, because we were created to be the servants of the Lord. We are the rod of his inheritance. It says, seeing many things, but thou observest not, opening the ears, but he heareth not. Right. So even though the words of the Lord are speaking loud and clear, they're not listening. They're not getting it. They rather hear the sweet words of these false prophets than to hear the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Matter of fact, let's get, what is that, Jeremiah? No, Isaiah. I think that's Isaiah 28 or Isaiah 30. Yeah, it must be Isaiah 30. Matter of fact, let me go here. Right. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 8. Now go write it before them in a table and note it in a book, which is the Bible, that it may be for the time to come forever and ever, right? Because everything has a time and a purpose. That this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the law of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. They're not listening even to this very day. Which say to the seers, which are the prophets, see not. And to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. They like to hear those smooth things. That's why the majority of them are what? in that zombie state, following leaders of the zombies. Get you out of the way, turn aside out of the path, cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us, because they don't want to hear the right way. How do you know that? When you deal with these, Renaissance Christians, and you actually tell them something, and then you actually bring it out of the Bible, they fight you even more, especially when them words come out. That's why it says that the word of the Lord is powerful. It's quick and powerful. Because it starts cutting deep into their soul, parting the waters. Inside joke. It says, wherefore thus saith the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, because you have despised this word, and trust in oppression and perverseness, and stay thereon. Therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall. Right? Because there's still a little room for repentance, but there's going to be a point where the Lord is going to shut the doors of mercy. Seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Swelling out of the high wall, whose breaking cometh suddenly at an instant. And once Jacob's trouble breaks, you either on the good side of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, or on his bad side. I don't know about you, but I want to be on the good side of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. As Joshua said, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And he shall break it as the breaking of the potter's vessels that is broken in pieces, he shall not spare. Right, so the Lord ain't going to spare in that day, because he's been a long time reaching out to you. And you're like, nope, we ain't trying to hear that. So what happens when you're in calamity, which we're going to read in the Lord's will next, or in a couple of ticks, Lord's will, the Lord's going to be like, nah, when I called you, you didn't want to hear me. So just deal with what you got to deal with. So that there shall not be found in the bursting of it assured to take fire from the hearth, or take water with all out of the pit. In other words, no mercy. No mother effing mercy. So now let's jump down. Damn, this is all so good. For thus saith the Lord power, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest shall you be saved. Right, return to the Lord, you'll receive the rest, and you'll be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Right, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High, and you would not. You didn't listen. You didn't want to listen. Why? Because it wasn't given to you to listen. Scriptures say that you were appointed for that. So there's certain individuals out there that are appointed for destruction. Just like the elect are sealed to be saved, you have other Israelites out there that are not a part of the elect that are sealed for destruction. And that's just the way it is. And this is the terribleness, the utter fear, of the Lord to have, that, you have those that are going to make it, but which was not that many, and those that are not going to make it, which are going to actually hear this word and reject it. Boy. But you said no, for we will flee upon horses. Therefore shall you flee. Right. So he's like, nah, we're gonna deliver ourselves. We're gonna flee out of Babylon. We're gonna go start something. We're gonna start our communities. We're gonna establish a financial basis among ourselves. We don't need the Lord. And will ride upon, and that's what this Lord said, and you shall flee. And we will ride upon the swift, therefore shall they that pursue you be swift. And it's going to be, man, I mean, if you watch that series, not the series, but the movie series, the actual movies, The Purge, those 5 movies that came out, boy, Jake is in some shit, because when them troops come, they rolling. You got to understand that they've been doing, what's the word I'm looking for? They've been training in cities, in the dark, how to roll, how to move among residents, how to take people down. They've been practicing. They are getting ready for the hour of martial law. They are going to, the scriptures say they're going to be as madmen sparing none. So they're coming. you know? And Jake is lollygagging still in that zombified, fruity haircut, having. They ain't paying attention. It says 1,000 shall flee at the rebuke of one, at the rebuke of 5 shall you flee. Right, and that goes back to the curses. And no, we didn't have to take an oath in order for the curses to be upon us. For that bonehead. Till ye be left as a beacon upon the top of a mountain and as an ensign on a hill. Right, because that's how it is, Jake is just going to be assed out through. Now, the 18th verse, and therefore will the Lord wait that he may be gracious unto you, right? Because the Lord said that the time of Jacob's trouble is coming, but he shall be delivered out of it. And therefore will he be exalted that he may have mercy upon you. For the Lord is a power of judgment. Blessed are they that wait for him. And that's what we're doing. Lord's will, we be the elect. We're waiting for the Lord to come and deliver us. That's the ultimate. That's the only answer. That is the only solution. For the people shall dwell in Zion and at Jerusalem. Thou shalt weep no more. Right, that's when the Lord comes to save us and deliver us. But prior to that, he's given us the instructions that we need. He will be very gracious unto thee at the voice of thy cry. Right, because we're crying right now to the Lord to come and save us, deliver us from the hand of this demonic entity known as Esau, the Edomites. It says, when he shall hear it, he will answer thee. Right, because the Lord said, he that abideth under the shadow of the Almighty shall, or he that remaineth in the secret of the Almighty shall abide under his shadow, or something along those lines. It says, and though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the waters of affliction, which is what we're going through, and it's going to get even worse. But prior to that, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers. Right. So you're seeing the teachers before this whole shithole goes up. And why is that? Because the Lord has a message, and thine ear shall hear a word behind thee. So if you hear a word behind thee, that means you're going the wrong way. And what is the natural reaction of one that's in his right mind? They hear the word behind him, and they'll turn around to look where that voice is coming from and head towards that voice if they are part of the elect. If they're not in that zombified state, saying, this is the way, walk ye in it, when you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. So when you're going the wrong way, you got to turn around from that wrong way. Salaki for 1 minute. Okay, Salaki for that. So let's move on, because you're getting the instructions from the men of the Lord, right? Jeremiah 15:4. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping they shall go, and seek the Lord their power. They shall ask the way to Zion with their face thitherward, saying, Come and let us join ourselves to the Lord in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. Why? Because we had to be reminded that this is our power. This is where our salvation lies. So now Jake is, you have certain Jakes that are turning back to the Lord. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. And you still have it to this very day. You could go on. The list goes on and on and on. Even among those that know that they're Israelites. Which is a damn shame, but necessary because it's all a part of the movie. I'm almost positive that Judas Iscariot did not want to play that part. But guess what? He had to. He's going to be ashamed, but guess what? He'll be all right when the kingdom of heaven is established. Because that was just the part that he had to play. Like the movie Django. This guy, Sam Jackson, he didn't want to play the part of Stephen. He wanted to play Django, but he was too old for the part. And this guy, the producer, forget his name right now. I mean, I could picture his face, that ugly Frankenstein head of his, but I can't think of the name. He told him, I got, but he hooked him up later. It said they have turned them away on the mountain, see? So everywhere Jake is at, these leaders are at, they're turning them away from the Lord. Quentin Tarantino, that's his name. They have gone from mountain to hill, right? So they've been going from governments to religions to philosophies to your Kwanzas to you name it. If there's a way to worship, Jake will be there worshiping it. It says they have forgotten their resting place. See? They've forgotten their resting place. It says all that found them have devoured them. That's the other nation, Esau and the other nations. And their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against the Lord. It says the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. Right. So now that they've forgotten a resting place, the Lord has given them the ability to get that resting place back. All right, so Proverbs 1:20. Wisdom warns. Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. And that's where the prophets are at, on the streets, crying out to Jake. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, which most brothers that go out to speak, they go out in these different cities. In the in the opening of the gates in the city, she uttereth her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity, and the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge? Right. And this is what? Correction, reproof, so that you can turn around, mend your ways, make amends with your power, reconcile with your power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and be delivered. It says, but only if you're part of the elect. Turn you at my reproof, meaning at my correction. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. Right. And the spirit of the Lord is what? The proper understanding of the truth that has to be given to you by men. I will make known my words unto you. Right. To give you the proper understanding of what you need to be sealed from when the distress and the rains and that great storm, the time of Jacob's trouble comes. Because I have called and you refused, I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. See? So the Lord's been calling by his prophets. They refused. Stretched out his hand by the prophets and no man regarded. But you have set at naught all my counsel. You set the Lord's counsel to nothing, and with none of my reproof. And you didn't listen to any of the Lord's corrections. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. So when you start catching hell, going through your afflictions, your FEMA camps, and the tortures, and all the shit that these devils are going to do, guess what? You're going to want to call on the Lord, but it's going to be too late. That's why there's going to be no excuse, because the word is out. The Hebrew Israelites are worldwide. And the Lord got them in the news right now. Even more so than before. Opening up other avenues for other Israelites to listen. because the Lord is sealing his elect. And that's it. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Because the Lord said he will return to his place until they acknowledge their offense. And Jake ain't doing it. Jake ain't acknowledging their offenses. They're just going along with whoever caters to their lifestyle. Whatever Israelite group out there caters to their lifestyle, that's who they get down with. They're not getting down because of the word and for salvation. They're getting down because of those different groups out there tickle their fancy. Let me tickle your fancy. Let me wind up your inside joke song. For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. Right. Because this knowledge is very important. Because this knowledge it determines between life and death. They would none of my counsel, they despise all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. So you want to go down that route? Go ahead. But eventually there's going to be consequences. And in those consequences, guess what? You're going to have to eat the fruit of your own doing and of your own devices. The Lord said he's going to choose your delusions. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them. Right. Turning away from what? From the truth shall slay them. And the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. Right. And this is why a lot of these different camps out there, they call us the bump camp, insinuating that they're rich, that they're lofty, and that we're just some scumbags, And hey, we'll wear that title proudly. Because that's what the Lord deals with the meek. He deals with the lowly. And that prosperity that they're pushing on these people, calling us bums, but then they got all the lavish garments, which you got to pay for. And that's why they got, that's why they rake it in the dough. Because each one of those shirts, I don't know how about now, but each one of those purple shirts is like $32 and some change from when I remember years ago. I don't know I'm sure they went up because of, inflation, and all that. So just imagine, and the person can't just get one because those things will wear out. So eventually they might have to get 3 or 4, maybe 5. So that's 3 or 4 per person, So that's bank. And then you got to buy the starter kit. You can't make your own starter kit. You can't make your own T-shirts, I'm talking about the IUIC. Yeah, that's right. Keep the bishop's name out of your mouth. And the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. And other camps teach that, the same shit. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely and shall be quiet from fear of evil. And I'm going to leave you with this one last precept, Psalms 91:1. It says, a security of the one who trusts in the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High, which is what? This truth, this knowledge. The proper breakdowns. Knowing that the MOTB is a C-hip. That is very major. That's up there. That's one of the top things to look out for and to avoid. Shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my power. In him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, which is what? The traps of Esau, the bird catcher, and from the noisome pestilence, which is the destruction. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. Right. This is dealing with the chariots, so-called UFOs, ships, or whatever you want to call them. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. That's why it's important to receive this. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. The terror by night is, Jacob's trouble and everything that's coming, martial law. The arrow that flieth by day is the destruction. Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, these different diseases. Nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. And the noonday is a representation of Esau's highest point. So when Esau is about to fill his belly, the Lord shall cast a furious wrath upon him. That's at the height of his, of hhis kingdom. And now when we jump down, you can read this whole chapter. It's an excellent chapter. 14th verse, because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. Yahushua said, if you love me, keep my commandments. I will set him on high because he hath known my name. Those names are very important. He shall call upon me and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. Right. So in the times of trouble, those names are going to be very important. And that's why the ones that made light of the Lord, if they happen to remember those names, they're going to call upon him, but the Lord ain't going to deliver them because they didn't give heed when it was necessary. That's why Yahushua said, because you have kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation, because that's everlasting life, which is coming. So with that, there's a lot of zombies in Israel. So I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.